Hi guys. Today we are going to begin our bird survey on campus. And this is one of the things that we do to gain some experience in how scientists and citizens can work together to monitor populations and also to alert people when more efforts at conservation are needed. So we're going to participate over the next several weeks in a project called Project Feederwatch. It is a project put on by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it helps organize citizen scientists that would like to spend their free time monitoring migratory bird populations. So today we're going to go over the method of how this project works, how we'll be conducting it in our classroom, and then a little bit about how to get prepared for that project to begin. So the method for Project Feederwatch is that they allow anyone who has a bird feeder station and can afford seed to set up one or multiple stations and then take a look at the birds that come and visit those stations. Data is collected during winter months, which ranges from November to April, and you're allowed to collect data part or the entirety of that time. The way they do it is they ask for 2-day counts. So if you're going to count for them and submit your data, you can do as little as 1 2-day count, or you can do a 2-day count every week for those winter months from November till April. And then what you're counting when you go out and visit your bird feeder station is you're counting the species that you observe at the feeder station only, and then the highest count that you observed when you were there. So if we went to our feeder station and we saw a group of bush tits, like you see here in the picture, you would count them up and you would record bush tits and then how many you saw at one time at your feeder. If you also saw a group of bush tits that never came to the feeder but were at a nearby, you would not count those. We're going to record our information on the Project Feederwatch tally sheet. First thing you're going to do is you're going to record your names, and you do not use the prompts here. Just record your group names, everyone that was present at the time of the count. Then you're going to record when you did it. For us, we're always going to do our counts in the morning, and then we're going to estimate the cumulative time that we're out there. If everyone goes to their feeder station and observes for 10 to 15 minutes, we'll be right under an hour. So we're gonna usually check less than an hour, and then you need to use your iPhone to look at the temperature for the day. This is important because sometimes this will influence bird behavior. If you had a really difficult night, you might see a surge the next morning. Or really difficult night in terms of temperature. And then lastly, you're going to start recording the species name here and then how many you saw. So you might notice that you arrive, you wait a few minutes, you start counting, and then a big flock of finches comes in. You're going to disregard the previous counts and add these up, okay? And what is very helpful is if you start to write down the species that you always see so that when you go out there, you just tally. You can have someone that's recording and someone that's watching. You can switch up those roles. I'll leave it to your group to decide how you want to do it. But here's the important thing. Our class is cumulatively going to record one of these. So when you come back to the classroom after your tally, you'll go to the listing of house finch and you'll write down your highest number. And someone can come through and say, you know what, at my station, I'm going to cancel through this because I saw 20, and they can record it that way. Okay, so we're only going to record the highest number of one particular species we see at any one time. You have one of these for every day you go out and count. Project Feederwatch data is used in a variety of ways. I mean, most generally, you can go to their database and download what you see and it shows distribution of particular species across North America. So you can see East Coast birds versus West Coast birds. Look up species that you're interested in. They also have a team of scientists that analyze the data to look for specific trends, and then also a little bit of monitoring to make sure that the protocol was followed correctly and alert any data that needs to be thrown out. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, this is a really interesting example of how citizen science can be used to alert public agencies and universities and people that do more largely funded studies. In Florida, Project Feederwatch noticed some declines in the painted bunting seen up here. And they looked through their data and they noticed that the declines were significant in the Project Feederwatch data, so they sent those on to government agencies that could then set up kind of more longer term and more careful studies, maybe to look into why they were declining. It's important to remember that all populations have natural fluctuations. Could be based on climate, could be based on, abundant food sources or breeding grounds. So they can try and tease out what's significant from the normal fluctuations as well. How we're going to participate in this is we're going to set up a feeder station per table group. Then we're going to give those places about a week to 2 weeks to establish, which means we're going to set them up with feed and we're going to let them just let birds discover them. And then as we're establishing those sites, we'll learn the common species that are most likely to be present, and we'll begin our counts. So day 1 counts will always be in class, so they'll be Monday through Thursday. And then a day 2 count will be by a volunteer team. Now, the day 2 counters is a really great way if you're trying to, harness your inner bird nerd. And I give you a little bit of incentive in that you can use the 2-day volunteer team, the second day count volunteer team, to earn your active citizenship hours. And you get an automatic exceeds once you hit 3 hours of volunteer counting. The only thing is we can't use our data if the volunteer team doesn't show up. So I need a minimum of 5 people to go out, and you have to sign up for your count. At each count, we'll fill in the data sheet I showed you earlier for both the species seen and the highest count. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go out and set up these bird feeder stations here, and we can go around as a whole class or we can split up per table groups, but we need to select an appropriate location. An appropriate location is one where you are going to have shrubbery nearby, but not so close by that the birds, you want shrubbery that's between 3 and 6 feet high and it's nearby. So you're not going to stake your feeder in the middle of a big grassy field. You want to be careful of large trees overhanging the feeder. There are hawks that specialize in that situation. And you want to be careful that the birds have a place to find refuge. So by placing it in the right spot where there are some shrubs nearby, but not a lot of overhanging trees, you should be able to attract birds, but give them also a safe place to find shelter if they need it. I once taught a group of 3rd graders, and we walked outside just in time to see the baby robins that had nested right near our feeder getting eaten by a Cooper's hawk. So these things happen, but we try and minimize that for the sake of the study. You're going to stake the feeder in and make sure that it's really well established. You don't want to pick an area that is too soggy. Then you're going to fill it with sunflower seed and suet. Those are the 2 feeds that we are going to use, black oil, sunflower seed, and suet. We can use others to attract a wider variety of birds, but for budget constraints, we're going to stay in here. So if you'd like to put another type of feed out, I have a few hummingbird feeders, and thistle is a really great one towards the end of the school year. You can see a different range of birds attracted to that particular seed. Then when you come in, you're going to mark your bird feeder on the class map so that teachers can come out and check on your feeders too. And then That way, the second day count can also go around and find your feeders for you. It's important to review the method, including the data sheet on the first 2 slides, so that next class we'll have a short quiz on that information. Hope this was helpful. Get ready to head outside and get started.